Hello, everybody. This.
Want the things out your hair? You're right.
No. Let's leave them. I just wanted to just say I was looking at all the people I wanted to thank, give gratitude to. And I've been around the LBC from about 1995. So there's a lot of people that I feel very grateful to in the centre, in the Sangha. The London Buddhist Centre, just for being here, and for the teams, the various teams over the years. Surya Gupta, for being my preceptor, which means kind of she supported me mainly in the training towards ordination. There's Amragita and Sarika and Jayakara, who have been part of my Kula, and Shubha as well, who's been part of my Kula too, and Paramachita, who was also my public preceptor. I'd like to thank my family, Ria, and Chrissy, and Maitrinita. Can I say that? And Gary, where's Gary? There's Gary back there, Ria's dad. Just being part of my family and bringing us together. I'd also like to thank, since I'm doing thank yous, I'd like to thank my Mitra study group. I had writing groups, the winter and summer retreats I've done, which have been a huge part of giving me a bigger perspective on life and the three jewels, and giving me the three jewels. I'd like to thank my family in Bristol, who unfortunately couldn't come today, brothers and sisters and my parents. I'd like to thank the Sunday school. And where's Jyota Samati? Is she here? No. I'd like to thank the Wednesday morning class. Shraddha Pushpa's been part of my, particularly since I had Ria, just really having that creche and the experience of exploring the Dharma while being a parent. So I'd like to thank you all for that. And my GFR group, Zenobi, Zenobi, I've forgotten all the names. Caro, Sue, Ushi, Ushi and Rebecca, So thank you to them, and the Karshavana team and T Ratnaloka team for the training they've given to me, the training for ordination. So and Attila, who's been one of the main men for me. And the Myth group, which I've been part of for the last couple of years. Thank you. So the rest of my talk will just be taken up with looking at my ordination experience, also looking at my name, and looking at my a little bit about my sadhana practice. So my ordination experience, how did that go? Right, so on the one hand, it was perfect. It's perfect conditions. Wonderful place, very arid, mountainous, rock landscape. So the external conditions were great. Lovely sunshine, sunsets, moonlight, starlight, beautiful. And then there was the training, the internal training, which was provided by the preceptors, Paramachita, Maitreyi, just in terms of how they led those sessions, like meditation, confession practice. Just in their being, they seem to embody, well, they do embody the three jewels, you know, they live the Dharma, they talk about the Dharma, they are the Dharma in some ways, not in some ways, they are the Dharma. So they gave us the perfect conditions for going deeper, even deeper and bigger than my usual sense of myself. So it was the perfect conditions for that. And then on the other hand, because I had the perfect conditions, I also had the things that I work with all the time. So one of the things was doubt, lots of doubt. Partly doubt around whether I was a good enough Buddhist, even at this stage, at this stage, whether I'd be a good Buddhist and in joining the Sri Ratna community. I've always kind of had to work with a lack of confidence and a lack of trust in myself and in going towards things. That's why it's probably taken me about 20 years to get to just the start of my journey. And some of those doubts have also been around, I guess, how I view Bhante a little bit. I wasn't always, I had this mixed view of him. On one hand, I wanted him to be perfect, and on the other hand, I wanted him to be human. And it's just carrying both of those. That there was some wrestling around that. And talking to my preceptors more and more about my doubts, I didn't feel that they were dismissed. I did feel that they could be discussed, and that brought another sense of faith. I think a deepening of my faith in this movement as the way I want to go, because I could feel like my ambivalences and my ambiguities and my confusions could be held and acknowledged here. The other thing that, as well as the doubts, one of the things that really troubled me on the retreat was that I couldn't sleep. I had 5 nights of not sleeping. And I would go through problem solving. If I did this, if I wasn't so excited in the day, I'll be all right at night. If I took something to calm me down, which I did, and it worked one night, it didn't work the next night. So sleep was it's been an issue in other retreats, but it felt like it was stronger on this retreat. There was something about the it's all very beyond my usual way of being. So how to relax into an experience which is beyond your usual way of being is something I had to wrestle with, and it's also about. It was for me. It seemed to be about not having any control. Letting go of the fact that I couldn't solve my sleeping through all these rational things that I tried to do. So eventually what kind of helped was just letting go. and seeing that my expectation of sleep, I didn't try not to have an expectation of going to sleep, and also reflecting on Amitabha, that helped, and doing a gratitude practice, so gratitude to my body and for the amazing thing that it is to be a human being. That seemed to help, that I could gradually learn to sleep a bit better as the time went on. The other thing that was challenging about my my experience was that I was regularly dealing with a feeling of lacking being good enough, comparing myself to the other lovely retreatants on the retreat. You know, they had better, they were more committed, they had more passion, they had this, they had that, which comes under in the Tibetan wheel of life. It comes under the hungry ghost realm, which is this realm where it's a mental state where and a pictorial state where you have a person who has a tiny mouth and a large belly, a very large belly, and everything that they put into their mouth to satisfy them turns to razors and needles, and it never satisfies, so they're always hungry. They're always hungry. They always want the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So it's a craving that is, I didn't feel that was satisfied. That's my experience of it, as never being satisfied. So that was part of my experience too. So that was part of my experience too. What kind of helped with that was acknowledging it, just accepting that that was what I was feeling. So it was kind of letting it in and not judging, and metta, and the practice of metta, which was to see that my experience, I could still bring kindness to it. I could still bring kindness to whatever I was experienced as a feeling. So I had all that. I had the perfect conditions, and then I had all the things that the usual challenges that seem to be even heightened by being on retreat. So on the day of my ordination, it was a beautiful day, and the ordination path is a very straight path to Akuti, and I got lost. I kind of went past it and got to a dead end, and then I thought maybe Suragupta is testing me. Maybe I'm in some I used to watch Kung Fu when I was a child, and you had this test, another challenge before you got to your so I saw it as I thought it was another challenge, but in the end what I had to do was I called out to Suragupta, and I eventually found where I was supposed to go. And my experience was of being ordained by Suragupta was joyous, actually. It was fun, in a way, fun to receive the precepts, to recommit to the three jewels. Yeah, it was a beautiful experience and joyous one. We were laughing quite a lot of the time.
You were laughing.
Suragupta wanted me to be probably a bit more tearful or something. But I just felt joy. So yeah, so that was my experience of that. My ordination, my private ordination. So I'll just come on to my name. So Maitrinita, which means she who is guided or led by Maitri, which is another word for metta, which is another word for loving kindness. So Maitri, loving is loving kindness, and it's the first precept, the training precepts. So it's ethical. I don't know that I respond to it as an ethical precept just yet. I just respond to it as just as a name that means, well, what loving kindness really means, yeah, so what it means. So as yet, I don't respond to it as an ethic, even though I know it is an ethic. So my response to my name was that I really like the Maitri, because I like the Maitri mantra, and I like the people who've got Maitri in their name. So I really like that. And then the Nita part, I was a bit more skeptical about. Nita, partly because I think when I first heard it, I misinterpreted the name. I thought it meant she who is a follower of metta. And I thought, oh, that's a bit passive. I don't want to be a follower. I want to be their front leader. But then I got clarification from Suragupta, and it felt actually stronger to be guided by and led by. It felt like that was more of a challenge to me. Challenge, or more powerful as a name. I did wonder whether it reflected me. But it also, it doesn't have to reflect me, because I'm looking at not being fixed in my views of myself. So it's bigger than me as well as in me. So my past relationship to metta, if you asked me 20 years ago whether I'd have a name with metta in it, then I would say no. I would have laughed in your face, because the metta practice has always been a very strong practice that I avoided. There was a time when I think I avoided it for at least a year. I kept coming here. I loved the lunchtime classes, and I would, every time they had metta on, I'd go back to the mindfulness of breathing practice. So it feels like quite a transformation that is now an attribute that Suragupta and other people have seen in me. Yeah. And it also feels like she who's guided feels like, well, it's asking me to look out externally, but also more internally as well, for a deeper sense of metta as a practice. I've got this analogy of a sniffer dog, you know, those dogs that sniff out drugs, but I'm sniffing out metta. You know, really so I feel it's a kind of revolutionary name for me, and a very transformative name for me. So, yeah. So the last area I wanted to focus on is my sadhana practice. So sadhana is a visualization practice, usually on a Buddha or Bodhisattva. And my sadhana practice is on Amitabha. So I continue with love, yeah? And we've got Amitabha Buddha here. So my associations with Amitabha, well, I love red, and he's the red Buddha. And he's associated with the setting sun. Again, he's associated with loving kindness. He's the Buddha of the West. He's the Buddha of fire and transformation. I think he's the Buddha of autumn. We've got lots of autumn reds at the moment in the landscape. So I really associate him with the red leaves we have now in autumn. He's also the Buddha who brings ambrosia to the hungry ghost. So to that mental state of lacking, he brings ambrosia, and ambrosia is healing. Healing. So my ambrosia is love. That's what my ambrosia is. So Maitrinita, she who is guided and led by Maitri.